We have four different and disparate panelists from different industries which are part of the online ecosystem. So this time I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to ask each one of them to speak to you for a minute about where it is, what it is that their company does, where it is that they come from within the ecosystem. Gyan?
Okay. Thank you. So I was heading DB Digital, Dainik Bhaskar Digital Operations for about 9 years. And then now recently joined Firstwall. Firstwall is a short form video app, that we're getting into. So yes, we've seen the Hindi publishing site, literally started that in India to the video side. So that's kind of the breadth I've covered in the last, 8-9 years in India, but all in the language space.
This is an app, a short form video app.
It's an app, yeah. Firstwall is an app.
Are you funded or are you doing? Sorry,
no,
this is not relevant to this discussion, but I'm just curious.
I mean, it's still within the realms of Dainik Bhaskar. So
Girishji is somewhere in the background and somebody. Okay.
Dainik Bhaskar is in the background.
Okay, sorry, Mayur.
Hi, this is Mayur. So I represent Vitifeed, which is a non-newsy, new age media platform. We curate content in multiple genres, categories. And we've got Foodmate, Geeksmate, Dunia Rajas, which is a vernacular Hindi platform, and almost 6 different websites where we create content for different audience, primarily millennials. That's it.
Tell them about the American content.
Sorry?
Tell them about the content for the American audience also.
Yeah, so we also, the best part of the platform is we host almost 70 million audience on our platform, and almost 30 million of it is from America, and all Americans comes and consume the content. The platform name is thepopple.com.
They are not Desis.
They're not Desis. They're Americans. We create this content. So we have a team of 120 people sitting in Indore, which is the central India which is in the central India, and that's where we create this content and they consume it, in America.
Fantastic. Rajesh?
Thanks.
Can we have another mic here, please?
So my name is Rajesh Lalwani. I'm an outlier here. I'm a marketer. I'm not a publisher in that sense. But I've leveraged the digital medium and largely social. Is this better? Largely social to build brands, large global brands. I think we worked with one publishing brand when we got LiveJournal to India and helped them build traction here. But yeah, largely brand building through social is what I have done for a large part of my career now.
Yeah.
I'm Rajiv Bansal. I'm at Hindustan Times Group. I guess I play 2 roles at the group. One is I'm the CEO for digital, so I'm responsible for all the digital businesses. And the second role I play is also a pretty crucial role. I'm the Chief Digital Officer for the group. So I'm responsible for the digital-led transformation of one of India's biggest and 100-year-old media companies. Before HT, my experience has largely been in the Valley, where I've built a variety of consumer products over the years. I've worked at large companies like Microsoft, Samsung, Logitech. I've worked at small startups, late-stage startups. I've created startups. I've succeeded in startups. So
why are you not a billionaire? Why are you working for HT?
I think the short answer to that is I'm really good at making money for the people.
Maybe he is. That's true. I'm being patronizing. No, but then I think this is a great panel for asking this question on search versus social media. And Suparna didn't answer my question. I don't like people telling me I get a lot of traffic from here, but how much? And how precious is that traffic? How much does it contribute to your bottom line? And those are the questions I hope we can at least go towards. So this whole search versus social media, and even search plus social media versus organic. I mean, these are questions I think I've been hearing them for 3-4 years, but I think we continue to grapple with them. Okay, let me ask Gyan now. I'm trying not to do this chronologically, but that's how it happens because everybody's sitting in a line. How precious is organic traffic versus search/social media traffic? And if I was to compare each of them, what is the impact? Everybody says, somebody says, I get only 7% of my traffic from social and I'm not dependent on social. But every which way you have to compromise somewhere or the other. Either you compromise on CPMs or you compromise on traffic levels. So,
I don't think so. It's like it's like a medal of honor that's where you get the traffic from. I think what is important is that you get the traffic. Because I mean, the game is in the publishing business is that you get the traffic. So I never really understood the realm of, why is traffic, I mean, like they say, the currency doesn't have a color. Money is money. So for me, the traffic is traffic. But yes, when you look at it, what I've always believed is, what are you really focusing your strategies around? Sometimes, we go overboard in trying to create traffic for a specific medium, and that's when the game gets a little dangerous. Saying that, okay, this kind of content really works on social media, so can we create more of these stories? And that's when you kind of move away from your brand image if that's what you really want to do. But I think as a publishing house, and especially when at Dainik Bhaskar, the search in Hindi wasn't really that effective. So the ground, the playground for English and Hindi had always, or a language side had always been different.
Are they still different?
Sorry?
Are they still different?
It is different because the search was a very, very key component when you looked at English, be it traffic or whatever, and the social came in later. But in the language side, the social came in before. Because most of the stuff that was getting popular on social, because social popularized it a lot more, was local language. And the search was still doing a catch-up game, with respect to the Hindi or the local language. I mean, it's still doing a catch-up game. The Hindi search is not as effective, as you really want it to be. So yeah, those graphs are very different when you compare different publications. When you compare a Hindi or a Hindi English or a Hindi publication, the graphs will be different. But that was by the nature what the ecosystem played out to be. It was not really the choice of a publisher.
Okay. Mayur, how do you, apna traffic chahiye, we want our own traffic, we want organic traffic, we want discoverability and we want good CPMs also. So how does one...
So let me start it this way. I would agree with him that, traffic to traffic hota hai. That's more important. The currency color could be anything.
So fine.
Yeah. So I would say that, 7 years back when we discovered this aspect of generating traffic from social channels, especially Facebook, we realized that it is a powerful medium, because at the end of the day, the best part is you're targeting right audience and you're bringing right traffic. Unlike search, where people go look for whatever keywords they want and then discover that piece of content, and then they realize that, no, this is not my type of content. So for us, it was much easier and better that because we were able to target right audience on Facebook, we were building right audience on our Facebook pages that we were designing and creating. So we created a lot of Facebook pages, and on top of that, we created a network, a Viral 9 network, which won award last year in digital publication over at Digipub also, which actually helped us a lot in getting this traffic on our website. Yes, what you said is right, that more of dominance from one particular platform creates a lot of problem.
Yeah,
but the best part
you
is
also had problems at some point because the algorithm changed.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah. But then that's where we realized that yes, this is a problem, and we corrected it very quickly, and now we generate almost similar level of traffic from Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and also from native ad platforms like Outbrain and all. And there is nothing wrong in paying for the traffic. You pay for your SEO efforts also, right? At the end of the day, you are doing that. So if you calculate your cost per customer acquisition and then customer lifetime value, you have the metric sorted.
Rajesh, you really have a bird's eye view on this, because the rest of them are all into it operationally, so that...
First of all, from my perspective, I don't know if it is a question to say search versus social. Right? There's search, there's social, there's native apps, and of course there's newsletters. And I think each one plays a role. I think the fundamental question really from where I look at it is the nature of this medium is very different from, say, print, right? Where loyalty was the key, that was the driver of how people consumed, right? We are now consuming little bite-sized pieces of content that are being thrown in our direction. We are not necessarily choosing what we are consuming. It's coming my way, I'm consuming it, and I'm moving on, right? And now, how do I create loyalty? So if you were to really ask, publishers have this new task, so to say, of creating a new business model, which is advertising driven largely, which is driven by predictability of what kind of audience will consume, how many audience will consume, when will they consume, which determines my advertising rates. In absence of that, in my opinion, really, what they're looking for is one side, They're looking at how do I create loyalty, and I think that question gets addressed by social to some extent. It would be equivalent to say I print a newspaper but I don't distribute it, and I expect people to now come and read my paper wherever it is. I think if I were to look at the distribution channels, I think social is an extremely important distribution channel. So that's number one. Number two, if I was to look at content really as a bomb, right? Social is the fuse that ignites it, right? And then, of course, everything takes over from there. That's the second. And the third is in the fundamental nature of the web today. It's largely human-driven connections that are driving the web as we see it, right? And no wonder, hence, if you were to actually, I think that question gets addressed if you look at how content is being written or created by the publishers today. I think it's largely human-driven content, storytelling, which is percolating even into news, right? When I read the Ken, what I read it for, it's not information, I read it for the human touch of how they articulate that piece of content, or Witifeed for that matter. And hence, I think if you were to look at a hierarchy, I would say social comes in at this moment.
Okay, that's interesting.
No, just one point in that. You know, when you look at it in terms of where you're getting the traffic from, that's not the point. But of late, what has happened is each of those distribution mechanisms have started creating their own ecosystem. Like one Facebook came with instant articles and Google came with an AMP. Now, so far when it's your own traffic, you decide your user experience. You decide how I want to place the ad. That gave publisher a lot of control because you had an access to the user directly. But incidentally, with an IA and with an AMP, you really don't have a connection with that user. Right? And you don't really control the user experience. You cannot control how do you monetize that. So it takes away a lot of power from the publisher. And that is where, you know, both of them are dangerous. You know, it's not neither one of them are dangerous because they really control the rules of the game.
And they
So
will.
I would-
and
no.
they will.
And I would want to,
Of course, it's a platform, they will.
no, I would say that, you know, in a way they are controlling it, but at the end of the day, it's making the user experience much seamless. Obviously, a lot of researchers has gone and they've studied the way user want to consume the data, make
Yeah,
the
of course,
interface
it's like
much
I come to your home and tell you how should you keep your home.
No,
because your home is dirty.
Obviously,
no, I got
the
the point.
content
You know, but
Okay,
it's
I
still my
need
home.
Rajiv to come in on this, please, Rajiv. How do you...
So, you know, just stepping back from all of this, I don't believe, and we don't believe that fundamentally all sources of traffic are equal. So
You don't believe that also?
we don't
Okay.
believe that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we know it from our analytics, and you know we have some of our competitors sitting here as well. I'm sure the analytics say the same thing. The folks who come to us directly give us far more engagement, an
Absolutely.
order of magnitude greater.
Which is why I talked about CPMs and therefore,
than,
you know, what it drives.
traffic you get from search or social, and that's actually rooted in how users use these mediums.
Correct.
So when a user comes to a news website, they're there to consume news, so they consume a lot of news. When people are going and visiting Facebook.com, they are there to connect with their friends and family. So if news is offered to them, they'll consume a little bit of it, but they're neither in the mode of consumption nor in the sort of not in the right audience for broad news consumption. And the same thing is true of Google search. When people are going to find stuff on the internet, Google is sort of like a directory to the internet. So our fundamental belief is, you know, at best, search and social are audience acquisition mechanisms for us. Google and Facebook, look, they drive a large portion of the overall engagement on internet and mobile. So of course, they're a fairly important audience acquisition mechanism for us. But we truly believe that's all really about our experience and our consumers.
But is
and
there
how
a
we cater to
proportion in
that.
your head that 30% should come from search and 30% should come? I'm just throwing
Yeah, so
an X
ultimately,
percentage
you know,
here.
I'll put a couple of different lenses on it.
Okay.
Right. So the first lens is how do you make money? So when you think about
that's okay.
but you know
Perfect. You're leading
that should
with
decide the priority of how you treat
Yeah,
these media,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So when you think about how you make money, there's essentially 2-3 different ways of making money here, and a couple of the primary ways are you go make money through ads. And ads are really all about the mass of engagement. So the mass of engagement really comes from deep engagement. So if you're getting one page view a month or a couple of page views a month from a user, that's pretty useless from an ad monetization perspective. The same is true of subscription as well. When you, all of us are ultimately moving towards some form of subscription models, and as we do, really the people who are consuming content in a very deep manner are really the ones who you're going to be able to bring on board as subscribers. So when we think about the audience that comes to us from Google or Facebook, and we take away the people who come to us naturally anyway, the leftover audience is fairly poor from an ad monetization as well as subscription monetization standpoint. And that's because that's the way consumers are using these platforms. Now, why are we here? Where, as an industry, we get a large portion of our traffic from these sources is because over the years, the way these interfaces are developed, we've outsourced our problem to a Facebook. Hey, go find the right audience for my content and, get this traffic to me. Or, hey, Google, go find the right audience for me and
No, but that's like saying why Hindustan Unilever needs retailers and, so it's if you looked at a consumer product ecosystem or a banking ecosystem, everybody depends on some channel of sales or something.
For sure, but think about the broad consumer, right? So when a broad consumer is trying to get a source of news, they're looking for, of course, they're looking for something that's updated pretty frequently, but they're also looking for an authoritative source of news. So when they go to a social network, one of the challenges that Facebook is having in fake news is because a lot of different sources of news come on there, and a lot of them are pretty questionable sources. It's very difficult to get the authoritative source of news. So when you think about platforms such as ours, which are news websites, whether it's us, whether it's a Bhaskar, whether it's the timesofindia.com or an NDTV, we do double, triple fact checking. We make sure that the news we put out is pretty authoritative. Now what we've done very poorly historically is solve user problems. How to find news that they're interested in.
Discoverability. Which is why we are so dependent
how to make news relevant to people, right? So those are new muscles that we're all developing now, especially with a lot of people coming from outside the industry and bringing a lot of those talents and skill sets into the industry.
I find sometimes it's like in television we always have this CPT versus CPRP discussion, whether you should pay for an ad based on rating points or whether you should pay for an ad based. वो घूम फिर के उधर ही आता है कि advertiser whatever he wants is what we will do. In this industry, in online, it all comes back to what Facebook and Google make all the money. So all this discussion at the end of it, how much of it really, how much of this sifting and sieving through various acquisition methods. And you're right, traffic is traffic, but if you were to grade it in terms of premiumness or you cluster it, and what Suparna said in the last session is true, her rivals have told me that NDTV gets a 30 to 40% premium on advertising. Their ratings may be lower than somebody else, but they still get that premium. They get that premium for something, which but I'm saying that how much of it therefore, is it driven purely by this acquisitive thing because we are so advertising driven, and if the market moved to more shades of grey, would our discussion around this whole thing change?
See, I think the news industry is obviously going through a huge transformation if you really understand. You create content, but then you did not create the distribution channels. Unlike the print and the TV, the distribution channels are pretty much in control of the stuff, right? But in digital it's not, right? All the distribution channels that got created were not owned by them, and they are constantly changing the rules of the game. So when I went from when I used Facebook to get a traffic to my site versus on an IA, instant article, I got almost half the value when I was getting the consumer to my site. Because once I get a consumer to my site, I can make him engage on too many things because it's my environment. But at an instant article, I can't do anything much because Facebook says, okay, beyond this, right side is my recommendations. I will not allow you to show your recommendations. Your logic won't work and so on and so forth. So I think the source, which was just a starting point, which was really didn't matter at that point of time where you got the traffic from, but now as and when they're changing the rules of the game and they are enforcing a lot of stuff on how your content will be displayed, what ads will be displayed, what will be the UI and experience, that is when it really kind of start hurting the publishing side. Because now it's your content but their distribution.
Then there's the algorithm. Mayur, one sec. At this stage, I want the audience, if you have any questions, think them through. Raise your hands, please, because we'll close the session in 10 minutes. Yeah? Yeah, Mayur,
So
proceed.
I want to talk about this thing that, obviously, on social also there are two ways of getting the traffic. One is you are getting it organically. Second is you are paying a bit of it. Obviously, you have to pay to get that customer. You have to advertise via, Facebook ads and all. There you can control your website experience and environment, and there you can get the traffic directly on your website and do the same thing. So I would go back to 2014 when this problem was not there, when there was not. So you said it correctly that there is this duopoly right now, and Kedar also mentioned this this term called duopoly, which is Facebook and Twitter. Facebook and Google. However, I would just say that social traffic that you are getting is from that millennials for whom we are creating content. So it also depends on the kind of content you are creating for. We are creating this content for this millennial audience, and we know that they live this 24 hours life cycle. That's what they are doing. Facebook stories is 24 hours, and also they for us getting that user from search is obviously of lot of use, but then it takes a lot of time for us to get that virality, and for us everything is about that virality. So that's what I would say about social traffic.
Rajesh, do you want? My question is, does this discussion make any sense at one level? Because these two will anyway control all the traffic. So, we could talk about changing algorithms and we could talk about X and Y and Z, but ultimately we are playing the 50 crore game and the 100 crore game, and it's just not moving beyond that.
But
so this traffic acquisition.
If it meets someone's aspiration, then I think it's worth it, right? It is obviously making some money for someone, which is why they're doing it. The question is that, people, I was listening to the interview before, and the confidence with which NDTV approaches their subject is because they come from a space which was traditional, incumbent, premium. For them, the traffic from other sources is probably less important. Maybe for HT it is less important. But for Vitifeed, the traffic that they're getting from social is it. Right? There will come a day when they will probably not need it. The ecosystem.
Different space, let's
say. The ecosystem would have evolved to a point that they've created ample loyalty for them. Till the time that loyalty is created, repeat visits happen. I think it's a question which cannot be answered today. I think they need the traffic. They're not at a point where they've scaled up enough, and they will get it from every source. I think, I was speaking with him, and I think it's very evident that social will contribute more to him, and probably search will be more important for him because searchability is important for news and so on and so forth. I think those are all functions of what specific genre of content.
But one small thing that I want to talk about is, when you aggregate your customer acquisition cost and your customer lifetime value, you have the answer. We still get 26% to 35% of repetitive audience. Yes, I'm paying again and again for that audience, but my customer acquisition cost is less.
Sorry, my apologies. I wanted to ask, I wanted to say rather, if this conversation was happening about customer acquisition from a non-publisher perspective, if I were a brand, the context of this discussion would be very different.
No, I don't think so. But sorry, I disagree with that because I'm saying if I'm discussing two sources,
right?
If I'm discussing like a search and a social source, it doesn't matter what you're acquiring the traffic from, because if you're a brand, acquiring the traffic from a search or social will be slightly easier than if you're a non-brand. But I think the question is that you are getting traffic from a point where you don't know the rules of the game, and they are constantly changing the rules of the game.
Absolutely.
So if you're really creating something for them, that's like a really a futile strategy.
But then my question
that's
to all of
for
you
Google also, right? Yesterday it was phrase match, then term match, then emotional match, and then whatnot.
Okay.
They're already taking over 7 searches for their own product. So why are you building why are you doing all that exercise?
But then how do you, and Rajiv, this, because you're like as mainstream as it gets here in this panel, how do you crack the discoverability problem? And then I have a question from the audience.
So let me just...
Are there more alternatives to the whole question of discoverability, which is why we are discussing search versus
Absolutely.
social?
So let me answer a couple of perspectives here, right? So I think you were bringing this, you were making this example of a Hindustan Lever which needs
different channels
in order to distribute its product. At the end of the day, the internet is not like that. right? So while there's a lot of engagement on Google and Facebook, the internet ultimately is an open platform. So if you create a great product, you do get traffic, you do get repeat engagement, you do get consumers. Nobody's blocking you from it. So from that perspective, as an industry, we're not quite giving consumers the right product and the right product experience. So what do consumers look for? Well, if you go and talk to consumers, they tell you things like, in the mornings when I'm trying to consume news, I don't have too much time. So please give me relevant, quick news, quick headlines very, very quickly. Now in the afternoons or the nights when I'm going back and trying to re-engage with news, I want to go back and re-engage with news that I was kind of interested in the morning. And if you look at the way news websites are created today, not only in India but across the world, they're essentially replicas of the print newspaper. So you've taken the print newspaper and taken it and really put it on a website in a lot of ways. So it's all well and fine to say, okay, Google and Facebook are incredibly important, and I think for all of us in this row, they are really good partners, and they compete against us. They also work with us on a variety of fronts, including audience acquisition, including monetization. But they're the first ones to tell us, look, at the end of the day, we are independent companies. We have our own motivations. So we are going to look for what's great for our consumers. And if you guys fit within that, we're going to be great at working with you. But, our priorities are going to change, just like your priorities change. So we need to be adults about this and be balanced about building experiences.
How do you crack? There's a gentleman there with a question.
Hi, good evening. I'm Siddharth. I'm from G Plus Guwahati. We're a hyper-local community based out of the city, Guwahati. My question is for Mayur. In terms of actually getting revenue and more revenue perspective, do advertisers come on board from social media engagement, or do they actually look at final website numbers? Because Vitifeed itself is also a social media platform first, and then the large website traffic comes in. So is in terms of luring advertisers, do you think it's social media engagement comes first or website traffic?
So good that you asked this question. I think, this panel also, needed this answer to come up with. Yes, there are a lot of advertisers who come and say that, we want social engagement and also we want some website visitors. But at the end of the day, what they're looking for is consumer engagement, and they want interactivity there. So example, we create a video for them, which is a 6-minute or an 8-minute. We make sure that, we tag them properly, we give the URL in the description and everywhere. And when we are creating that piece of content, we also create the sub-content for them. Like, we create a story for them, we create a poster or a meme for them, which eventually brings that brand recall, and obviously traffic goes to their website. I also...
Social media aggressive because it's the social media platform that grows advertisers.
So yes, obviously, social media is something that, so let me tell you this.
Okay, 1 second. I'm going to interrupt with an analogy. Yeah. So I think Shah Rukh Khan is a great brand ambassador because he's fit with my brand is perfect. But actually, I just want to hang out with Shah Rukh Khan, and that's why I'm taking him in my advert. Is that right when we talk about?
No, not really. So that's why I was saying that. So look at it this way. This advertiser, he's doing a campaign. That campaign period is 15 days, 30 days. Now look at it from that perspective that if I have to get them listed in my search engine result pages, get them on top of searches, get that video crawled and get them views delivered. Obviously, virality needs to be there, right? I cannot do that via search. I can do that by bringing that traffic on my website, but then I am forcing user to read that content. That user is not discovering the content. I'm forcing that user to show that, masthead or a banner on my homepage and then bringing that user. So it's not right. For us, content marketing makes sense because we go natively. We are creating a campaign for Shah Rukh Khan. We are saying that, sorry, I'm using that name.
Social media.
Like example, a Padman, let me give you a small story. A Padman, we created this campaign where obviously from Akshay to everybody in the universe, they were holding their pads and creating content. We also did that same thing. We also created a lot of influencer, pieces for them. But the best part is it all viewed in from social more and search less. So that's the logic.
But I think, that brings really the entire content domain is getting split up. There are a lot of content companies who are working like content creation part, right? And it really doesn't matter where I distribute the content from. So for me, they are nothing but like agencies, right? So I would go to an agency to create content. So you're creating agency and you you also have a distribution mechanism on social media or XYZ, wherever you have the influencers, where I will not only create content for you, but also I will distribute that to a certain X number of people. That's one part of the stuff. Then there's a second part where you're saying that, oh, I create content, and my content is not about virality, but my content is about the brand that I carry. You know, and where the consumers consume because I am saying it, right? So if I said, okay, this is what it is, it has a far higher weightage than a non-branded site saying that. So that's another domain that's getting there. And then the third is the entire distribution domain. So I think this entire stuff is really getting, in my mind.
What will happen at the end of it? I think we had a fantastic, and I still have a question on how do we beat the bloody algorithm, but we can't get into that because she's flashing red cards at me.
But the last line that I want to close my dialogue with is content is as good as its distribution. That's
content is
as good as its distribution.
Huh. Well, somebody said, a friend of mine said, content is king, so distribution is God. So, and right now we are at that stage.
If it's not distributed to right audience, it's of no use.
But let me ask everybody, what are you going to take out of this session? Shah Rukh Khan or search versus social? Remember that. Okay, but thank you. Great discussion. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you,
audience.